Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 ChampCar Endurance Series annual members meeting. Now, today we're going to have our board presentation, and during that presentation, feel free to ask any questions you may have in the YouTube chat. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll go through our Q&A session. Now, if the question seems to be highly detailed, there's a lot of information, it would likely be better to just send that in an email over to info@champcar.org, and we will make sure that that email or emails get forwarded to the appropriate persons. So with that, we'll go ahead and get things started by sending things over to our board chair, Mr. Roger Cohen.
Good evening, everybody. As Polly said, welcome to the 2025 annual members meeting for ChampCar Endurance Series. Step through the agenda here. First of all, we'll go through what the board of directors has had going on last year, what we've got planned for this year and leading on into next year. The same thing with the operation. Mr. Chiswick's going to step through what his operations had going on last year, leading through this coming year, and then some of the things we got planned for next year. I'll go over the iRacing report, what those guys have done for us, and Mr. Michael Coleman will go through the treasury report, and then we'll end with some question and answering, as Polly also said. So for this year, your current board of directors is myself, John Whitnire is the secretary, Michael Coleman's the treasurer, Justin was the previous chairman, Ray Frank, David Kissick, and Frank Reynolds. Some of the things we worked on for the past year or so is at the beginning of the year, we were faced with an opening to run the operation. So we decided to bring on the experience of Mr. Michael Chiswick to lead the operation again. He was with us until 2020. We felt like his experience of, how to run the operation, how to interact with the tracks, how to form the schedule, how to manage the finances, and also manage the staff. It was a really luxury to have someone already familiar with us and how it works. Over the last year or so, the things had gotten in a little bit of a tight spot from the finances. So some of us on the board worked with the leadership of the operation to get things back on solid footing. And I'm just happy to report we've got things really in good shape again, which is, as your club, I know it's what you expect us to do and what we expect of the operation to make sure we've got a solid financial footprint to stand on. One of the subcommittees that we had as a board was just to update the club bylaws, make sure we were current, correct any errors that's in there. Those have been marked up and they should be on the website if you want to review those. We've finished that work. We also had a long range planning committee just to look at, from affordability and balanced competition, what can we do to keep this a good experience for you guys? So you come race with us, as affordable as it can be, and the competition be as balanced as possible. Again, just some of the goals we had, just make sure we're on firm footing and just shepherd any rule changes to provide a cost-effective, enjoyable racing experience for all of you. So let me spend a minute and talk about the one of our permanent committees we have as part of the club, the Technical Advisory Committee. Myself and Ray Frank are the liaisons with that group. We've got some long-term members, been on since I think about 2018. Mike Coppola, Evan Horner, Andrew Johnson, and Ben Schott. We recently brought on some new members, Roy Deach, Bob Kobayashi, and Ron Morse. We did have a lot of interest and really appreciate everyone that experienced, that expressed the interest in helping the club out on the TAC. So our plan here is just to try to give these guys who've been on the TAC for a long time, give them a break. So as these new guys come up to speed, we'll start rolling one at a time from the pool that we've had apply and give some of these guys a break that have been on for quite a while. And more to come on that later. And with that, we'll turn it over to Mr. Michael Chiswick for a review of the operation.
Hello, members. I thought I'd go over some of our highlights and future plans with everybody. 2024, I came on in June, so I missed the beginning of the year. But when I got there, the board of directors, your board of directors, had created a really good, strict budget that the staff was doing a good job of sticking with. So rather than upending the cart, I stuck with that budget last year. And through that budget, the club saw the same amount of revenue. We had no significant increase or decrease in that, but we managed to control our expenses. And of course, any simple understanding of finances means if we make the same amount, we spend a lot less, then we're in a better position. So we had a much better balance sheet for 2024 than previous years. as I mentioned, as I came back in June, there's a change in our leadership, but we did not have any turnover with existing staff. Part of that is because, most of that staff knew me from years ago, so I wasn't exactly an unknown face or presence, and that helped with the transition quite a bit. But we have a very good staff here, and they were excited to keep working with the races and you guys. As part of our improvement in our balance sheet, we were able to replace some outdated, worn out, broken equipment, updated our timing equipment, got some backups for that, and some little things, radios and tools and things that are necessary in the background to keep things running smoothly while you guys are on track making laps. The biggest, most noticeable part of that is we also picked up a new equipment truck. The old van was on its last leg. It was overworked, so we got a great deal on this low mileage truck from eBay. If you ever see that thing, other than the ugly color, I don't like it. That thing had 29,000 miles on it. We got it custom built for the FBI years ago, and then they sold it. So really excited to have that. Jimmy loves it. Feel free to go take a look. Jimmy would be happy to show it off to you guys. We also did a little reset on ChampCar Live, and we've put some more budget into it. So we have more cameras, we have more equipment, we've got some new faces there, and so far this year, we like what we're seeing, doing a great job with that. For this year, Borden and I talked about it in the off season, the winter, and we decided that we had some goals for the year. One of those was that we wanted to increase the membership, and rather than come out and say, we want to double the number of members in 2025, that's not realistic. We felt that adding 2%, which is about 60, 70 new net members, would be realistic. It's not slow, steady growth for the club. Always worked in the past, and so we want to maintain that. Most of you remember that we tried in the wintertime to switch over to a new registration system. Didn't work out, so we went back to ours, and the staff and a lot of you members mentioned that you liked it, but there's just some bugs, and so we've been working in the background to work out some of those last remaining bugs from that system. And it's the current registration people with us are very pleased with the improvements, and if you guys see anything that bothers you, please let us know. We'll add that to our to-do list for updating that. We are continuing to update and enhance Flagtronics. This was a completely new experiment from years ago that had a little bit of some growing pains to begin with, but it's really gone a long way, and so we'll continue to make that better as we go. We also want to increase the number of volunteers we have. Volunteers are important because they make the event safer and go smoother, but also volunteers are where we draw our future staff members from. And we are in need of new staff, and so we start with the volunteers. If any of you can't race, maybe the budget's tight, but you still love being at the track, we would love to have you guys come out and volunteer with us. We're also going ahead and looking at our BCCR, our rule book, and trying to identify and flag loopholes, problems, things that didn't work out, and really want to clean that up, make it the best as possible as we go into 2026. As far as the future of ChampCar, as I came back from a couple years away, it kind of gives you a clear perspective as opposed to being in the middle of it year after year. And there are some things I've identified that I like and don't like, and we're working with the board and tech group, the tech guys, and see what we can do about them. I believe that we have a lot of EC cars being built, and EC was not ever meant to be a serious class. It was meant for the cars that had got too many points when they showed up to race with us. Rather than send them home, we had a place they could run. Technically it stood for exception class. You didn't meet the criteria of the other four classes, too many points. And then we expected that you would adjust the car and come back and race in one of the other classes in the future event. But it has become this all-out, spend what you want, build fast cars kind of class, and that bothers me. And so we're discussing some ways to deal with that. On the flip side of that, the F class had been created, and I love the F class. We really are going to lean into the F class and market it, push it, and we believe that that is a cheapest way to get into road course racing, simplest, not too complicated, speeds are not excessive. So love the F class. We're going to really work on that one. Sort of in conjunction with the EC, but it really applies to a lot of things. There's the never-ending speed creep that happens in racing. Some of it is just because the newer cars are better. Some of it is you guys have gotten really good at building cars and driving those cars. Any of you who were there back in 2010 at the start of all this would probably chuckle at the difference between your driving skills now and then, and the builds too. But we can't stop speed creep, but we want to make sure that we're doing everything reasonably possible to keep it under control. Along with that, the cost of racing too. So we are going to focus on trying to highlight, encourage more budget builds, spending less money, and keeping the speeds more under control. One of those things that fits in that category we've already announced back in January is we are going to try a new tire rule for 2026. We announced that. You guys were quick to catch some loopholes in the wording. I appreciate that. And we have already changed those words. We're going to put out a newer version of that soon so you can see if we've missed anything else. But the TAC is working with Tire Rack. Tire Rack is there to answer any questions for us, technical questions. If we ask about how a tire performs, they can give us their data they've got, but Tire Rack will by no means tell us what tires we should and shouldn't run. That's all on us. They're just a technical advisor if we need it, and I really appreciate that from them. So we're adding a couple tires to the list. We're debating about dropping one off, and we're also getting information about some tires that will be disappearing from the marketplace, being discontinued, but they're being replaced with new ones. So it's an ongoing project, and we're excited to see results from that next year. Now on to, I believe, our iRacing. Thank you.
So let me talk a few minutes here about iRacing for 2024. Those guys had 16 championship races, 20 practice events. They averaged 29 drivers per round. They had 104 unique drivers and had 270 viewers per round. A lot of interest in their YouTube broadcast there. Those guys do a good job of putting on the races and the broadcast as well. So for last year, the winner was Cameron Martineau. Second place was Jared Collins. Third place was Ian Giebler. Let me just say the iRacing is a good segue into those kind of get an interest what ChampCar can be about, and in fact we do give some credits for the guys that win to come race with us in the real world. So it's a good segue to go back and forth, generate interest both places from iRacing and with the regular club. So for 2025, they've condensed the schedule from March to October. They do have 4 team endurance events. In addition to their regular individual races, they've got 11 tracks on the schedule. They've averaged 41 drivers per round year to date, which is up from the 29 that they had last year. Their goals is just to maintain a broad participation and grow the team endurance events, and instead of the individual, try to get more interest having team events. So again, I want to thank what those guys do for the club to run the iRacing series. It's a good. It's really a good thing to participate in if you got an interest or you have the setup or you want to know how we can get you in touch with those guys and get you involved in that too. So with that, I think we're going to turn it over to Mr. Michael Coleman to go over the Treasurer's Report.
Good evening, ChampCar Nation. Treasurer's Report for the 2024 annual meeting. I'm happy for the first time in 3 years to be able to report the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024, showed a profit of $364,817 compared with a loss of $240 in 2023 and a loss of $11,688 in 2022. 2024 showed a membership increase of 3% after a slight loss in the previous 2 years. Total revenue remained relatively flat, down $25,000 from the prior year. During 2024 and through this point in 2025, the chart of accounts has been updated. A new accountant has been hired and a new bookkeeper hired. The gain realized in 2024 was primarily a result of a comprehensive annual budget and an operating plan to provide financial stability. An investment plan has been implemented to ensure long-term viability. ChampCar or ChampCar International, our proper corporate name, is a 501c7 tax-exempt organization. Many people confuse tax-exempt with nonprofit. And while we are, by the state of California, a nonprofit, it doesn't mean we can't earn a profit, which is a bit of a contradiction in terms. However, that's the way it is. We can earn a profit providing the money that is shown as profit is used for the benefit of the entire organization. And by establishing an investment portfolio, primarily we have started with a couple of small CDs, which we plan to add to and hopefully set up laddered CDs. This allows us to develop financial security so that when we want to do things that could potentially have a loss, like maybe going to Indy or somewhere like that, if things are good to us, or if there's a downturn in business, we are allowed to have significant financial assets. And hopefully that will be our plan going forward. That concludes my hopefully very positive outlook financial report for the 2024 year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. All right, with that, we're going to wrap this up with any questions you guys have. Again, before we start taking on the questions, we do appreciate you coming to race with us. We know you have choices out there, and we really appreciate when you decide to spend your racing dollar with us. And we hope that we're giving you a product that is the best affordable racing experience there is out there, and we want to maintain that for you. So that we're here to help you achieve that. And with that, we'll turn the questions over. Polly.
All right. So, we're going to go into our Q&A session now. And so the Q&A, feel free to put any questions you may have in the YouTube chat. And then the board will go through and answer your
Polly,
questions.
you're muted.
It's fine. Sorry, I'm muted in our Zoom meeting. They don't like that. So feel free to put that into the YouTube chat, and then the board will go ahead and answer those questions for you. Okay. So with that, we're going to turn things over to our moderator, and it's going to be Mr. Roger Cohen. Roger.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. We've got one question that's already popped up on YouTube chat. Is will ChampCar Endurance Series, ChampCar Endurance Series, consider any mid-season balance of power type adjustments to address the topic of speed creep that was highlighted in Mr. Chiswick's presentation? So I'll let him address that. We have not discussed it as a board, so we'll let Mr. Chiswick address that.
Balance of power, what they use in IMSA. I don't believe we'd ever get so in the weeds as to doing something like that. I know that IMSA, they can adjust that weekly if they so choose. But we have always done something similar, looser, where we would look at performance from the events. If there's a car that seems to be dominant, and our version of dominant, first of all, is different than what a lot of members think. So we look at the numbers, and then we might make an adjustment. If we make an adjustment on the value of a car that goes up, that does not take effect until the start of the next season. We're not pulling the rug out from underneath people. On the flip side, though, if we find that the car was hit with too many points, then we can reduce the points, and those would take effect immediately. but that's about as much as we're going to do, or as quickly as we're going to do something. Like I said, not like IMSA's BOP.
All right, our next question was Rusty Mallet asked, "What is the biggest hurdles we're facing for tracks in the southern states?" I think that's a Mike Chiswick question.
I'm in schedule season right now. The only break you get is the spring, like March, April, and then you're back doing track scheduling for the next 6 months. There's some tracks in the South that won't talk to us. Some of those, we have no idea why. They woke up on the wrong side of the bed a couple years ago and haven't got back. And then there's at least one other that we know exactly why, but we can't make them change their mind. We're just going to try and be the best club we can, and hopefully that a door opens again, we can get there. For all the rest of the many tracks that are in the South, a lot of times there's only so much time in a year to go racing. And, I feel like 20 races for what we consider the eastern half of the United States is all we can fit. We might even be more comfortable at 19 or 18. In the old days when we went coast to coast, we could do 24, 25, but that's okay because we could spread out a bunch across the coast. But I am talking to some other tracks that are in the South. I've got NOLA on my radar, talking to some new tracks in Texas, and we'll see what pans out. But, when it comes to scheduling, just because I like where it fits on my schedule doesn't mean that these tracks have the same schedule. So we'll keep working.
Okay, next question. Scotty Caslett has asked, any talks with COTA? I think while you got the floor, maybe address that one also.
We have an open line of communication with COTA, and they actually got a hold of us. It was December, early January, late December, just a few months ago, and offered us a date in February. Well, we had Road Atlanta coming up in 6 weeks, and we already announced our schedule. So that didn't work out. We're not going to do that. It's a major change. We already paid money to Road Atlanta anyway, non-refundable. So I passed on that, but we are staying in touch with them, and we are going to see if we can make something work for perhaps a future date, not too distant future, even distant future. But yeah, we're on good terms with them. They want us to come back, so we just got to find the right date. That's all.
Okay, any other questions? That's all I've seen so far. Anybody else seen any questions that we need to address here? We've got a quiet group this evening.
It might also help if the membership sent in or got us cornered at a race and just discussed what kind of tracks they want to see in the South. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming up, and I mean, if there's interest, we can go to a lot of places. But the fact, if we don't have interest going somewhere, it's a no starter. So hear from the membership is always a good thing.
Okay, next question was, is the board and tech looking at changing which I assume BPI for cars that have parts? I don't know, Rusty, would you mind maybe clarifying what you mean, or maybe somebody else understands that have parts? And then Rugged Badger Racing, any thoughts on a Rookie of the Year award? Maybe that'd be a good Michael Chiswick question also. Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year? Well, what are we talking about? Rookie Team of the Year or Rookie Driver of the Year? Because we really don't track drivers. We do track cars, teams. I mean, if he's referring to a team, it's not a bad idea. We'd have to come up with some criteria so we don't just say, I like the color of your car, or this guy, gave us some snacks. That's really not good criteria. But yeah, I'm not opposed to that. So we can lay out a structure for it. All more chances for awards and recognition. I like that.
So the last question, the question was, is the board and tech looking at changing the VPI for cars that have parts, harder to find replacement parts or body parts? And I think that's something that just about everybody's facing with the aging cars that a lot of us run, at getting harder to find parts. So I think tech, and along with the tech, is always looking at that. Is there is there cars that need adjustments on VPI? I don't know if we really looked at it from a replacement parts standpoint, but just making sure we're keeping the competition balanced. Somebody else want to jump in here? Mike, if you got any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, VPI is based on the car as delivered from the factory the year it was made. What potential does it have? Fuel capacity and power and handling, reliability. VPI does not take into account if parts are going extinct. I think it would, if we did that, there's a lot more work involved, and I'm not sure personally if that's a rabbit hole that's a good idea for us to go down. We all understand that as cars get older, they're going to fade out and into the sunset, and when they wear out, you build a new one. So it's not on our radar to do right now. I can just tell you that much, that it's not something we're considering.
Bill gave an example of his Opel GT, so we for sure, we all know that car's got to go.
One of the reasoning we had for opening up transmission mounts and motor mounts was kind of that reasoning. It is more free stuff, which everyone hates, or most of the membership hates, but it's a part that the car had. So we limited it to having the same geometry. But the parts that were designed in 1990 and made in Germany are nowhere near the stuff we're getting now. So you really can't get an OEM engine mount or transmission mount. So we made the exception for stuff like that. That was some of the reasoning behind opening up transmission mounts and engine mounts, is because the parts were still available, but they were junk. So, and it was something that the car already had. We just allowed people to use a little upgraded part. Unlike oil coolers, where a car might not have come with an oil cooler, it was a whole different thing as far as transmission and motor mounts.
We've got another question on would we consider partnering with lap day organizations that do, DEs, HPDEs on the weekend, partnering with them to foster the funnel of new drivers into the series. That's been talked about by several of us, and I know it's been considered. There's finding that right combination of somebody we can work with and working through a weekend. Again, Mike, if you got any recent work on that, maybe let us know what you got working on that.
There's clubs that reach out to us and ask, but as you said, it's got to fit. Sometimes, a lot of times, if we're not running the test day, the track is going to do it. They have their own staff and their own protocols, and so we'll partner with the racetrack, let them manage it. All the money goes to them. The benefit for us is we get in earlier, which gets you guys in earlier and makes the whole weekend a little bit better, or a bonus. But it's only been a few times we've partnered with an outside HPDE group, and we're not opposed to it. It has to be the right deal.
Oh, Ed has made the point. It's just, some of these cars are hard to find engines and transmissions for. Not easy to find. A reduction in VPI for more swap choice would help. I think that's just a plug for that. And Timothy has said, I'm with you on that, Ed. Did I miss any of the questions? A lot of stuff kind of come through there. Okay. Any other questions before we wrap this up? Again, you've got the option to send us a meeting. Send us an email to the board or directly to the operation. And if you got any specific questions, please put those together for us and send to us. Okay, we've got one more question here. Would oil coolers and other cooling devices not help cut costs and keep a team on track longer? It's kind of an age-old argument. I think the counter to that has always been if you give those away free, it just gives you more points to go spend on go fast items. So there's always that striking that balance. Again, somebody else wants to jump in here and give their opinion on that, but that's always been the counter argument for it. We have, as Mr. Chiswick mentioned in his presentation, maybe taxing the speed items a little bit more might be a goal going forward. So
Ray's got a point here.
Go ahead.
Microphone, Ray.
I'm working on it there, buddy. I had to find the little thing down there. One of the things we are looking into, I wouldn't mind the ChampCar being known to be an affordable, race car that you can get in and run and have your coolers and your reliability items, because I don't really think a car that lasts a long time and is affordable to race would be a bad thing. I've kind of leaned toward, not wanting to do this, but I can see a point to it. I mean, every time you put a cooler on it, you're adding weight and you're adding a possible failure point. So there are downsides to using them. Some people aren't going to use them no matter what, because they're not going to add, 8 pounds to anything. So we're leaning more toward it. So like I say, we're looking at some things to, like I say, we want to save people money. That's about the only thing as club, we really are looking at the expense, not only in tires, but also the car. And, I'm leaning toward maybe letting those coolers come on in here, but that's just me. We're working on it. We're hearing you. We're hearing you, folks. I'm good.
And as John pointed out on the chat, that we do have a petition to review concerning coolers and AccuSumps. And while we're talking about petitions, we should have that together for you next month. We'll release the decisions on each one of those and get that to you as soon as we get it. We can communicate it to you. And I think maybe that's Roy out there that said, appreciate the focus on saving teams money. I think we all want to do that. And he said, like the hotel pricing, little things like that really help. Every dollar you save, that's a good thing. And we made a point here, if you want to reduce costs, Dennis has made this point. If you want to reduce costs, charge homemade parts for less points. We've always encouraged being original and trying to build a car with homemade parts. It's always been an encouragement. This is a builder series, and we've always encouraged it. And I don't know about reducing costs for that. Charge homemade parts for less points. So maybe it's another opportunity for a petition.
Homemade parts for one person is a lot different than homemade parts for another person that has a CNC. So it's a slippery slope and a dangerous game.
Yeah.
Well, the rules used to allow any homemade parts if they were made with hand tools, I believe.
Yes, hand tools.
Yeah, and it was amazing what people could do with a file and a hammer. Just amazing.
Yeah. I think that rule, if I remember right, it disappeared in 2016, right?
I think the talk now is some of the focus is on raising the speed stuff and perhaps lowering some of the reliability stuff, but the speed stuff, I think, it is we're trying to address some of that as well. The tires was the first step, but we'll see what else we can do as far as the speed before we dive into the reliable stuff.
Yeah, it shouldn't be cheaper to make your car go faster than it is to make your car more reliable.
Okay, we've got one other question here. Chris Schultz has asked, how do you keep each class on a more level playing field? It's a fairly open-ended question. Anybody want to take that one on? I have an opinion that, the classes have always been, I wouldn't say arbitrary, but we have had it where the idea was to have where VPI had it such where an A car would compete with a C car. And I know there's a lot of arguments against that in reality has not worked out completely. We've done some things to try to do that. We've changed some fuel rules and such to try to, the low fuel cars, make them a little bit more attractive to compete for the overall. And so there's a lot in that one question that hard to be addressed in just a.
I'll take a little shot at it.
Yeah, please do.
I don't know. How competitive can our racing be? I mean, I go to a lot of races. I mean, there are last lap passes for class wins throughout classes, all through the field, and all year long, each class will win an overall. Each class will have FTD at a track. The tracks are different. The cars are a little different. There is no the car. There is no, certain cars do better at certain tracks. That's a fact. You can't get around it. But all in all, the way everything's set up, my goodness, I think the racing is so competitive. It just blows me away. Paulie accents it on the show. We had a last lap pass, a couple of them for position at Watkins Glen in the last race. So I don't know. I think it's very competitive. When Daytona after 14 hours, we had this race wasn't a 4-foot victory, but still it was a doggone good race all the way to the end. Same with Watkins Glen. I'm pretty tickled with the competitiveness. We do have a runaway every once in a while, but it just happens when a team gets hooked up and has a great day. I'm good.
That's to be said. We're still looking at all that. We're considering what Ray said, and we're considering what some of the petitions say, and we'll come to a consensus and move forward one way or another.
Okay. Any other questions for the group? Got a point on RS4s. I love hard wearing tires. I can run 3 or 4 races on. RS4s have been awesome for me. So Timothy Elliott said that. That's it's always been a kind of a ChampCar standard to RS4s. It has decent grip and lasts forever. So good tire. Any other questions for the group?
I could tell you just a smidgen on that tire thing, Roger. We're working on that very thing. That's what we're looking at. We want tires that'll last a weekend or more, not just a day. We don't want our members having to buy 2-3 sets of tires for a weekend. We want a set of tires to go a weekend. So that's what we're looking at. And Tire Rack is giving us information. We also, Mike has talked to Grassroots Motorsports. We're just getting all the information we can. But 5-6 years ago, we did not have marbles on the racetrack. We did not have all this rubber caking up in the cars. The tire manufacturers are playing games, and it's costing our racers money. There is a group of tires that's not these Super 200s, and that's what we're going to be racing on. We're going to be racing on tires that will last you a weekend. So we're looking at that. We're moving toward it hard as we can. Thank the Lord for Tire Rack that is helping us do this. Grassroots also. Information is a good thing. Y'all got any ideas? Send it on into the tech desk. We read stuff all the time. Back to you, Roger.
And we realize there's some of you out there who disagree with some of this, and we've tried to take the best opinion that we could and form what we thought was a consensus, and knowing that it's not going to satisfy everyone, we just did what we thought was the best for the majority of the racers, what they felt like they wanted, and I hope we've done that, and we'll try it. We'll make adjustments as we go along. That's what we do. Got another question here. Any chance for Laguna Seca race? We used to go there. The competition was usually pretty low in the numbers and really faced a lot of issues with noise, and we had to come away from there. So I think, again, we'll put that question to Mr. Chiswick and see what his latest thoughts are on that.
Yeah, because you said it's challenging with the restrictions. Laguna's got a 90/60 if I remember, sound restriction, which sounds pretty good, but most of your cars do not pass. Actually, it might have even lower than that. It was pretty strict there, if I remember. So that's a hiccup. They also have a 40 car limit. They're pretty serious about it. But one time a few years ago, well, 10 years ago almost, I think, um, we did a 4-day deal, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And a couple of the East Coast teams pulled out because it was worth it. They can get 4 days of track time at Laguna. Um, if that was an interest, we would explore that again because it gives us a chance to try and actually cover our costs and make a buck on it. And it gives you guys a chance to take advantage of what's your investment and got a lot of track time. Nice facility though. Love the track. So yeah, let us know if there's a lot of you that's interested in it and would be pulling across country because I would need some East Coast teams. Then we can make some phone calls and see if they've got anything available.
All right, Bill pointed out it's a 90 dB limit there. That's pretty tough to make. Okay, so Ed has asked 2 more questions here. What about 16-hour races? I think that's a Mike Chisholm question again.
I'm going to say why, but I know why, because you want more drivers, rental drivers in your car. We also are restricted by tracks sometimes too. We don't do 14s or 12s anywhere. Where we do them are facilities that can tolerate the noise later at night. And even some of those we're brushing up against it. We used to do in the past a 14-hour at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And I believe we'd run 9 to 11. But they have an ordinance that it's like sound off by midnight. And if you run past midnight, the Mecklenburg County Sheriff shows up. So, and a lot of tracks are that way. So there's not many places that you could do a 16 unless you want to get out there on a track at 5, 6 in the morning. And frankly, I don't think the staff does. So I think for the time being, we're not really looking at a 16-hour event.
All right, we've got a couple of questions asking, has Indy been considered? And I know, we've been there a couple of times and it's a very expensive track and we got to kind of pool our money to be able to go there. Maybe a little more detail on that, Mike.
I've already spoken with Indy in May. Nothing has been settled, but we are in dialogue. So we're good with them. So if nothing shows up next year, then I'd keep watching. It might be the following year. So this is why we work so hard to have a good reputation with tracks, so that even if something doesn't work out in one particular season, the door is always open to keep talking and we can make something happen later. But yes, we have been speaking with Indy this year.
Okay, a couple of points. Some people have pointed out they really like the one-day events. It makes it where you can travel on a Sunday to get back home and not take as much time off. I assume that's the point behind it, is like the one-day events. Another question on, will Nelson Ledges be considered for 2026? Again, that's a question for you.
All tracks are considered. Tracks we've been to before, tracks we haven't been to, tracks we're at this year. I look at attendance from past events. There's a lot of people that want to go to their track, their local track. Well, who doesn't want to tow an hour to go to their racetrack, sleep in their own bed at night? But if I'm only getting, 20 cars at an event, I'm probably not going to come back, at least for a few years. And that's another tactic, is sometimes the track will work once every 3 years, but it's not going to work every year. So the last time we were at Nelson, we didn't have good turnout, so we took it off the schedule. But it's always a consideration going forward.
One more track question. How about a Homestead?
I like Homestead, Miami. Last time I was there was a bit of a debacle with fireworks. Long story, but love the facility. It's deep in Florida. We got a good market in Florida. If I knew I could get 35 teams, I would probably reach out and try and get a race down there deep South Florida at Homestead, Miami.
All right, just a few comments back and forth on what's already been discussed. So, what's our time looking like? We've been on here 45 minutes. So we'll give it a little bit more time. I can open up the floor to the board. Anybody got any points they want to make before we sign off? We don't get any more questions. All right. Dennis has asked a question. Would midweek events increase track availability? I know it's harder on teams. Yeah, that's a tough one, trying to find people that can be off during the weekend and travel to a race and then do a race and then travel back home during the week. What's your thoughts, Mike?
I can get any track I want in the country during Monday through Thursday. Those are everybody's at work. So they're doing some testing usually for OEMs, maybe some film crews are there, some driver training sessions, but it's basically piddly stuff to fill in the blanks. The weekends are the hard ones. So yeah, I can go anywhere I want midweek, but just because I'm there doesn't mean that we can get racers, you guys, to show up there. For certain special tracks, Lime Rock, like I said, the 4-day event at Laguna, we have done some things that were, say, Thursday, Friday, and it worked the one time, but by and large, midweek scheduling doesn't work for you guys, the members.
All right. So Ed's asked a question. Can you post minimum required attendance to encourage signups? I know we've had, when we put the budget together, we had kind of like a break-even number, and I know Mike's worked a lot on that. And so, again, Mike, that really is an operational question again.
I have break-even numbers for every single track in the country, so I know exactly what I need. So when someone says, let's go to this track, we may love the track, but going to MSR Houston in July, not going to meet our break-even numbers. It's just miserable, And so I have the numbers. If someone wanted to know, you can hit me up. I'll tell you what we need to get there. And if there was a bunch of people that were pushing for it, then I'd come up with a number that is I got to have this many people commit beforehand, then I'll make up the rest, before we get to race day. But yeah, I know all those numbers.
Hey, Ed, does that answer your question, Ed? So we've got two Tyler Smith talking back and forth here. Apparently follows us with ChampCar. Glad you guys are here.
Actually, I've got a question for them. How cheap would a race have to be to just be, we're going to this race, even if we don't like the track? What's the number? Because I've got a track in the country that offered me a free tracker weekend. I just got to pay for ambulance and corner workers. And we could pass that savings on to the members. So it could be an $800, $700 race weekend. Is that enough to attract members to a track that's not top tier? So I'm just curious, what's too good to pass up?
Yeah, I think the consensus, just first couple of questions, and our answers would be, I think a lot of people would say, like $1,000, depends on the location. And Andrew's thrown out Roebling Road, $800 within a 6-hour drive, 1,200. So 800
So would
to
that
1,000.
apply? Would that apply to during the week, Mike? Like say to a nice track that we go to. Say if we went in the middle of the week and it was $800 to $1,000, would that apply to a name track like Sebring or stuff like that?
We could get a midweek date at a big track like Sebring, Road Atlanta, Mid Ohio. That's not difficult. The rates are a little less for midweek versus weekends. say generically speaking, a weekend rental is 10,000 a day, then the weekday rental is usually like 6 or 7,000 a day. So our price to the members for a weekday event will be a little less. But the one track that hit me up was offering a free track for a Saturday, Sunday. So that's, you're already off of work. It's a regular weekend racing event. It's just they're trying to get some customers in there and get some activity at their facility.
And I think everybody's aware of this. The tires aren't any cheaper during the week. The gas isn't any cheaper. The traveling back and forth. And so, the entry fee is only one part of it, obviously. And so that would have to be pretty cheap and encourage people to be off work. And so this, as a board, we'll talk to Mike some more about this possibility of this entry level track. That sounds attractive to me as a racer anyway. So. Yeah, we've got people saying Road America would be in for any day of the week. Yeah, there's a few tracks that I think that would really draw no matter what. Sprint races, if you're midweek, is another point. One of the Tyler Smiths is pointing out. Yeah, trying to get a whole team to show up would be difficult during the week. Time and location dependent. That seems to be a lot of a consensus of the people that have answered here. All right. Okay, we're gonna give it another minute here, and we don't have any more questions. And also, like I said earlier, just if you miss it, please send us an email or send an email directly to Mike Chiswick. And if you don't get a chance to ask it here, then ask us in an email. Bill's pointed out he'd like a series of short races that can burn off old tires and use brake pads. That's a good point, Bill. Speed week style, a few days of short track days. Lots of good ideas out there. All right. Paula, you want to take it back?
All right, so that's going to do it for us for this 2025 members meeting. Thanks so much, folks, for signing in and joining us today. We really appreciate your participation. Of course, for the board, thank you so much for everything that you've done.
Paulie.
Yeah, I'm not muted on the live stream. I'm just muted to the board. They can't hear me. But thanks, Board of Directors, for all of your hard work and your commitment to help us and serve us so well. We really appreciate each and every one of you guys, your time, your talents, your commitment. Thank you so much, so that we can all go out on the weekends and have a great time. Be aware, everybody, we do have a race this weekend. We'll be at Joliet. It's the Autobahn, great racetrack. Over 40 people have signed up for that one, so make sure you check that out. Come out. There's still time to get in. Anyway, that's going to do it for us for this meeting.